She sat on the cold sidewalk, holding her crying twin babies, begging strangers for milk, forgotten by the world. But then a black SUV pulled up. A billionaire stepped out, stared at her like he'd seen a ghost, and whispered, "Ava." She looked up, eyes wide, and realized it was her childhood love. What he did next, it didn't just shock her, it stunned everyone watching. Let's begin. It was just another freezing Monday morning in downtown Chicago. The kind that bites through expensive wool coats and sends commuters hurrying past one another without so much as a glance. The world didn't stop for the cold. It never did. But Nathan Carter did. Right in the middle of the bustling crosswalk, he froze. His security team turned quickly, confused. "Mr. Carter," one of them asked. Nathan didn't respond. His eyes were locked on a small figure crouched against the side of an old building, beneath a faded banner for a shut-down diner. A woman, frail, shaking, clutching two infants in a threadbare blanket. A cardboard sign lay at her feet. "Please, just milk for my babies. God bless." It wasn't the sign that hit him like a punch to the gut. It was her face. Ava Sinclair, his first love. The girl he met when they were just kids in Bluefield, West Virginia. The girl who used to draw little stars on the back of her hand and said she wanted to fly planes one day. The girl who once kissed him under a rusting bridge before he left town, swearing they'd find each other again. But this woman, this pale, broken version of her, was hunched over on the sidewalk like she hadn't been seen in years. He stepped forward, slowly. "Ava." She didn't look up. He crouched down, expensive suit brushing the dirty concrete, and softly said again, "Ava, it's me, Nate." And this time, her head jerked up. Her lips trembled. Her eyes scanned his face with disbelief. Her voice cracked, barely more than a whisper. "And Nate Carter? From Bluefield," he finished, choking on the lump in his throat. A man making over $70 million a year, CEO of Carter Global Holdings, the youngest billionaire in Chicago real estate, was now on his knees beside a woman people were literally stepping over. The babies in her arms stirred, one letting out a weak cry. He instinctively reached toward them, but Ava flinched. "I'm sorry," she said quickly. "I didn't mean for anyone to recognize me. I'm just trying to survive." Nathan couldn't believe it. This wasn't real. Ava, begging, with twins? She looked like she hadn't eaten in days. Her coat was no more than a windbreaker. Her fingers were blue at the tips. One of the babies had no socks on. He stood up and turned to his security. "Get the car. Now." They obeyed, stunned. He knelt back down. "You're coming with me. Right now. No arguments." But she shook her head violently. "I can't. People like you don't understand. They see me with you and think I'm taking advantage. I can't handle that kind of." Nathan reached into his coat, pulled off his scarf, and wrapped it around one of the babies. A man walking past muttered under his breath, "Must be some kind of stunt." Nathan snapped his head toward him. "You say one more word, and I'll buy your building and evict you tonight." The man scurried off. Ava blinked in shock. "I don't care what anyone says," Nathan said, voice shaking. "You're not staying on this street another second. You saved me when I was a lost kid, Ava. I swore if I ever made it, I'd come back for you. I never thought I'd find you like this." Her eyes welled up. A tear slid down her cheek. And finally, she nodded. 10 minutes later, Ava sat in the back of Nathan's custom Lincoln Navigator. The heating vents blasted warmth into the small space, and Ava's twins were wrapped in blankets Nathan's assistant brought from the office. One slept in a borrowed car seat. The other still nestled against her chest. Nathan sat across from her, eyes never leaving her face. "What happened to you?" Ava's voice was hollow. "Life. Abandonment. The wrong choices. But I'm not a bad person. I know you're not. I was with someone. The twins' father. He promised everything. But when things got hard, he just vanished. And after that, I lost my job, my apartment, my credit. I didn't have anyone left to call. You could have called me." She gave a tired smile. "Nathan, last I checked you were all over Forbes. What was I going to do? DM a billionaire I used to share fries with in 8th grade." "Yes," he said simply. "Yes, you should have." By the time the car stopped, Ava's jaw dropped. They were outside the Rosewood, a luxury high-rise that overlooked the lake. Private elevators, penthouse views, and doormen in designer uniforms. She looked at him in disbelief. "I can't go in there." Nathan unbuckled and stepped out. You can, and you will. When she hesitated, his voice softened. You don't have to be strong right now, Ava. Let me help. That sentence broke something inside her. She stepped out, and in that moment, a billionaire carried his childhood love's infant twins into a lobby that had once turned away a single mother with a stroller. The private elevator opened directly into Nathan's penthouse, a sleek space of black marble floors, glass walls, and views of the lake that made most guests stop breathing for a second. Ava didn't even glance at the skyline. She stood frozen in the foyer, twin babies bundled in her arms, while her shoes, muddy, torn, damp, soaked into the imported wool rug. I shouldn't be here, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Nathan turned from setting down a fresh bottle for the baby on the kitchen counter. Stop saying that. You don't get it, Nate, she said shakily. People like me, single moms sleeping outside hospitals, don't belong in places like this. I haven't even showered in. He stepped closer. You belong here more than half the people I've entertained in this penthouse. Don't insult yourself. And don't insult me by acting like I don't remember who you are. She looked up slowly, and the strength in his eyes made her swallow the rest of the argument. Within the hour, both babies were bathed, diapered, and tucked into a crib Nathan had one of his staff deliver, assembled in under 15 minutes with the urgency of a SWAT team. Ava stood in the massive guest bathroom, staring at herself in the mirror. Puffy eyes, cracked lips, hair limp and dry, clothes clinging like wet paper. Then, on the counter, she saw something she hadn't touched in months. A silk robe, warm towels, skincare, shampoo with actual scent, not the dollar store kind she'd been using at the shelter sink. She broke down, just for a moment. 10 minutes later, freshly showered and wrapped in softness she never thought she'd feel again, she stepped out, only to find Nathan standing near the glass wall, hands in his pockets, watching the city lights. He turned to the sound of her footsteps, and something shifted behind his eyes. Not pity, not sympathy, recognition. He saw her again, not as the girl begging on the corner, but as Ava, the girl who used to beat him at Scrabble and chase fireflies barefoot in the summer. I made tea, he said, breaking the tension. Unless you want wine. Or, I can cook. Still make that chicken piccata you used to like. She gave a dry laugh. You? Cook. I'm still human. Billionaire status didn't erase that. She stepped slowly toward the open living space. Why are you doing this? He stared at her for a second before answering. Because I still remember the night I ran away from home at 16, and you're the one who found me crying under that train bridge. You sat with me all night, and I promised you, Ava, if I ever made it, I'd come back for you. Well, she said quietly, you made it, and now I'm here. She blinked. You really never forgot me? Not for a second. Later that night, while her twins slept in the nursery down the hall, Ava sat across from Nathan on the floor, pizza box between them, her feet curled under his blanket, her body finally warm. You didn't ask who their father was, she said suddenly. I didn't need to. You're not curious? I'm more curious about what you need, not what you've lost. That silenced her. For the first time in 2 years, she felt seen. I used to have dreams, she murmured. Big ones. I wanted to fly. I studied aeronautics, had a partial scholarship, but then my mom got sick. Bills piled up. I dropped out, took care of her until she died. After that, it was just one door slamming after another. Nathan was quiet. Do you know how humiliating it is, she continued, to watch the world rush past you and pretend you don't exist? I do, he said softly. I lived in my car for 3 months before someone gave me my first coding gig. Everyone sees the CEO. No one remembers the intern who used coffee stirrers to fix a broken keyboard. A beat passed. Then Ava whispered, why are you still single? Nathan leaned back. Because no one ever came close to you. The silence between them was thick. Then the baby cried. Ava stood, but Nathan was already at the door. I've got him, he said with a smile. You finish eating. By morning, Ava woke in a real bed, soft linen sheets under her for the first time in years. She looked over and saw her babies sleeping peacefully beside her. Their faces were no longer pale, their bellies finally full. But it wasn't just the luxury that made her breath catch in her throat. It was the peace, something she thought she'd never feel again. And as she stepped into the sunlit kitchen and saw Nathan flipping pancakes, tie off, sleeves rolled, singing to one of the twins in a baby voice. She knew this wasn't a dream, and she knew her life was about to change. Ava watched from the hallway, bare feet pressed to the cold floor, one hand on the doorway, as Nathan bounced her youngest in his arms, his voice low and soothing. The baby had spit up on his expensive shirt, but Nathan didn't care. He just laughed softly, grabbed a towel from the island, and cleaned it off like it was the most natural thing in the world. She had to blink away tears. He didn't treat her like a burden. He didn't act like he was doing her a favor. He simply showed up, in a way no one ever had. "You're staring," he said without turning around. Ava stepped in slowly. "I didn't mean to. I haven't seen anyone hold them like that. Not even their own father." Nathan's jaw tensed, but he didn't comment. Instead, he handed the baby to her with incredible gentleness, then turned to flip a pancake. "You know you're not going back out there, right?" "I can't stay here forever, Nathan," she said softly. "This is your life. And this, me, I'm not part of it. You think I care about what people think?" She raised an eyebrow. "You run a billion-dollar company. Your image is everything." He walked over and looked her directly in the eye. "If my image doesn't include kindness, then it's worthless." Ava's lips parted, but no sound came out. "Because how do you argue with that?" She looked down at the baby in her arms. "I don't want to be a charity case." "You're not. Then what am I to you?" Nathan didn't answer immediately. Instead, he took a breath, like he'd been carrying the words for years. "You're the girl who made me believe in good when everything around me was falling apart. You're the reason I didn't give up. And now you're the woman I want to protect. Not out of pity, Ava, but because I never stopped caring." The words struck deep, too deep. She turned away, overwhelmed, pretending to check on the twins as tears pricked her eyes again. Nathan let her have a moment. Then, gently, "There's something else I want to show you." 30 minutes later, Ava found herself in the back of another luxury car, this time without fear. Nathan's presence beside her was steadying, like a grounding wire for her chaotic emotions. They pulled up to a modern office tower, chrome and glass gleaming in the morning sun. "Why are we here?" she asked. He gave a small smile. "You'll see." The elevator took them to the 47th floor, Carter Global's executive level. Ava hesitated when the doors opened. "I'm not dressed for this." "You're fine." Everyone who passed Nathan greeted him respectfully. But every eye that landed on Ava held curiosity, and some quiet judgment. Nathan ignored them all. They stepped into a glass-walled conference room. A nameplate read, "Director of Aviation Programs, Reserved." She blinked. "This?" Nathan pulled out a chair for her. "You once said you wanted to fly. That was your dream, right?" She nodded slowly, unsure where this was going. He slid a folder toward her. Inside were blueprints, mock-ups, training plans, and a program proposal. "Carter Global is launching a new nonprofit," he said. "A partnership with aviation schools across the Midwest. Full scholarships, housing, support for single mothers, too. I want you to lead it." Her head snapped up. "What?" "I'll pair you with a coordinator at first. But the vision? It's yours. I've seen your records. Your aptitude tests, your old college recs. You've got the mind for it, Ava. All you needed was a damn chance." Her hand trembled on the folder. "I'm not qualified. You're overqualified. And I trust you more than anyone." A beat of silence. Her eyes welled again. "Why are you doing all this for me?" Nathan leaned forward. "Because I know what it's like to be underestimated. And because I still love you." The room spun for a second. She opened her mouth, closed it, and then, very quietly, "I don't know if I have anything to give you back." "You already gave me everything," he said gently. "When I had nothing, you believed in me." She let out a shaky breath. "I need time," she whispered. "You've got all the time you need," Nathan said. "But know this, I'm not walking away this time." And Ava, surrounded by the power she thought she'd never touch, holding the future in her hands, believed, for the first time in years, that maybe she deserved to dream again. The following days moved like a strange dream Ava wasn't ready to wake up from. Each morning she woke in warm sheets, not to the sound of sirens outside shelter, but to the soft cries of her babies in a sunlit nursery. And every morning, Nathan was there, feeding one twin, brewing coffee, making it impossible for her to feel like just a guest. But Ava couldn't ignore the whispers. Nathan tried to shield her, but she saw the judgment in the eyes of his board members, heard the veiled comments from socialites he used to entertain. She's what now? A former flame? A charity project? Even the tabloids were circling, snapping blurry photos of her entering the Carter building, speculating about Nathan Carter's new mystery woman and her surprise twins. She tried to stay invisible. She wore simple clothes, took the elevator at odd hours, stayed silent in meetings, even though her ideas had weight and depth. And through it all, Nathan never wavered. He always looked at her like she was enough. But that only made her fear the fall more. One night, while rocking her son back to sleep, Ava sat on the edge of the nursery chair and whispered to the dark room, "You're safe now, baby. Mama's gonna figure this out. I promise." She didn't hear the door creak open, didn't see Nathan standing there, watching her whisper to her child with more grace and strength than she knew she had. Later, when they sat in the living room, her baby's finally asleep, Nathan turned to her. "You've been pulling back." "I haven't. You don't smile the same way anymore." She stayed quiet. "Is it the press?" he asked gently. "The rumors?" "It's not just that," she admitted. "It's me. You're building this empire, and I'm barely figuring out how to keep my babies fed. I don't belong in your world, Nathan. They all think I'm some gold digger who got lucky." "You're not lucky," he said firmly. "You're surviving, and you're stronger than anyone I've ever met." Ava's lip trembled. "You really believe I can lead this program? I wouldn't put Carter Global's name behind you if I didn't." She swallowed. "Then I'll do it." A long pause. And then she added, "But I want to do it the right way. No shortcuts. No favoritism. I'll earn the role." Nathan nodded slowly, respect gleaming in his eyes. "That's the Ava I remember." She smiled, small but real. A week later, she stood at a press conference for the official launch of the Carter Wings initiative. Hair tied back, minimal makeup, a tailored blazer she borrowed from Nathan's assistant. She stepped up to the podium, cameras flashing. The crowd hushed. She scanned the room. Businessmen, media, investors, skeptics. "My name is Ava Sinclair," she began. 2 months ago, I was living on the street with 2 newborns and no home. Today, I'm standing here to lead a program that will give other women the second chance I almost didn't get." She paused, letting her words sink in. This isn't a story of pity. It's a story of possibility, of the power that lies in believing someone still matters when the world has forgotten them. The room was silent. No one laughed. No one whispered. They just listened. And when she finished, they stood. Slowly at first, then in waves. Even the harshest critics rose to their feet. And in the back of the room, Nathan's eyes glistened as he clapped harder than anyone. That night, they walked the lakefront alone, the city behind them, the stars above. The air was crisp, the path quiet, and Ava's hands were tucked into the pockets of her coat as they walked side by side. "I still remember the letter you wrote me the summer before you left," she said suddenly. "You said we were too young to know what love was." "I was wrong," he said. "I kept that letter." Nathan stopped walking. She turned toward him. "I don't know where this is going," she admitted, "but I know I'm not that broken girl on the sidewalk anymore. I'm building something, slowly, and I want to build it with someone who sees me." "I see you," Nathan said softly. Then, after a moment, he reached for her hand. "Can I walk beside you while you build it?" Ava didn't answer with words. She just took his hand in hers and held on tight. But life wasn't finished testing her, because 3 days later, as she picked up her mail from the security desk of Carter Global, she found an envelope with no return address. Inside was a photo. Ava, her twins, on the street, taken weeks ago, and a single typed sentence. "Do you really think he'll still want you when he finds out the truth about their father?" A chill shot through her veins. The past she thought she'd left behind was knocking. Ava stared at the photo, hands trembling, her breath caught as the line repeated in her head. "Do you really think he'll still want you when he finds out the truth about their father?" She shoved the photo in her bag, heart racing. Not now, not today. But by the time she reached the elevator, her past felt like it was breathing down her neck again. That night, she couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. The question haunted her. Should she tell Nathan the truth? The real truth. That the twins' father wasn't just a man who left. He was someone dangerous. A man she'd once filed a restraining order against, who promised he'd destroy her life if she ever told anyone what he'd done. She glanced at her sleeping babies, then at the city lights out the window. Nathan deserved the truth. So the next morning, she asked him to meet her on the rooftop. Nathan arrived fast, concern in his eyes. What's wrong? Ava pulled the photo from her coat. Someone left this. He looked at it, jaw tightening. I should have told you sooner, she said. The twins' father. He wasn't just a mistake. He was violent, controlling. I left when I was pregnant. I've been hiding ever since. Nathan didn't speak for a beat. Then he stepped forward, voice calm but fierce. Ava, that man doesn't define you. Nothing about your past makes you less worthy. You survived him. That's strength, not shame. But what if he? Then I'll make sure he never comes near you again. She blinked. You believe me? He placed his hand gently over hers. I trust you more than anyone. The next week, Nathan used his lawyers to reopen Ava's protection order. The man was located, and the court granted full restraining orders for her and the twins. Nathan's influence helped, but it was Ava's story that moved the judge. She wasn't afraid anymore. Months passed. The Carter Wings initiative gained national attention. Ava stood tall on every stage. Interviews, funding galas. Headlines now read, from homeless mom to aviation program director, Ava Sinclair soars. And every time, Nathan was by her side, not as her savior, but as her partner. One evening, he surprised her. On a quiet rooftop, under string lights, he held out a small, velvet box. I don't want to rescue you, he said. I just want to walk with you. Through everything. Ava smiled, tears in her eyes. Yes, she whispered. And as he slipped the ring on her finger, her twins toddled over, laughing, grabbing Nathan's legs like he'd always been their father. Because maybe he hadn't known them from the start, but he chose them. And that kind of love was forever.